It's midnight and you're tuning in to Nightline with me, Nurin Razmyn. The top stories. Malaysia to forge ASEAN consensus on the sweeping reciprocal tariffs imposed by the US. And South Korea court upholds President Yoon's impeachment. Good morning. Putrajaya is taking steps to forge an ASEAN consensus on the sweeping reciprocal tariffs on American imports imposed by United States President Donald Trump. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim confirmed that Malaysia, as ASEAN chair, is engaging in discussions with several member states to uphold the principle of fairness in international trade. On Wednesday, Trump announced new retaliatory tariffs on all imports to the U.S., which will come into effect in the coming days, sending shockwaves through the global economy. About 60 countries or trading blocs will be subjected to tariffs as high as 50%, including Malaysia at 24%.
Kita memang terkesan juga sedikit, walaupun kadarnya tinggi, tetapi rendah daripada beberapa negara jiran. Sebab itu kita ambil keputusan untuk mengadakan rundingan dengan rakan-rakan saya. Saya dah kontak Thailand dan sebentar tadi Presiden Prabowo Subianto Indonesia dan sekejap lagi dengan Presiden Filipina dan selepas itu Singapura. Supaya ada satu kesepakatan.
Anwar, who is also the finance minister, was also asked whether Malaysia plans to impose retaliatory tariffs on the US.
Yang penting bukan soal tindak balas, yang penting ialah menjaga kepentingan ekonomi negara, terutama semiconductor yang banyak ekspornya ke Amerika Syarikat. Sekitar 60-65% daripada ekspor semiconductor kita ke Amerika Syarikat dan sekitar 26% daripada keperluan Amerika itu dari Malaysia.
The Prime Minister said this to the media after performing Friday prayers at the Saujana Putra Mosque in Kajang, Selangor. The Investment, Trade and Industry Ministry, in a statement on Friday, said the government will revise its economic growth forecast for this year due to the significant impact of the 24% tariff on U.S. imports from Malaysia. The precise impact of the U.S. tariffs will become clearer when more information is available on their implementation, rates, product coverage, and the outcome of trade negotiations. In the meantime, central bank governors and government representatives from several ASEAN countries are set to attend the 12th ASEAN Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting, AFMGM, next week. Although not on the official agenda, developments on the U.S. tariffs are expected to be discussed informally during the dialogue session. Second Finance Minister Datuk Seri Amir Hamzah Azizan said a negotiation-based approach is considered essential in exploring the possibility of reducing tariff rates. This is in addition to seeking the best solution for all parties involved.
There will be sessions between ASEAN and the US Chamber of Commerce, for example. So generally the US Chamber of Commerce are companies within ASEAN who want to promote more trade along the way, want to look at a better investment client environment so that they can do more things along the way.
Amir Hamzah added that ASEAN countries are prepared to identify affected companies or sectors and provide the necessary support. He said the bloc's member states have demonstrated unity by adopting a non-retaliatory approach and striving for a mutually agreeable outcome. The AFMGM will take place in Kuala Lumpur over 4 days, beginning this Monday. 14 meetings will be held, including sessions with the ASEAN-US Business Council and the ASEAN Business Advisory Council. Putrajaya, meanwhile, has denied Washington's claim that Malaysia has imposed a 47% tariff on U.S. imports. The government issued this clarification following a special meeting chaired by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim on the 24% tariff imposed by the U.S. on Malaysia earlier on Friday. Malaysia will also continue engaging with the U.S. to reach a fair resolution on the matter. Meanwhile, the government remains confident that the current situation will not lead to a recession, although the country's economic growth projections will be reviewed. Police have confirmed that excavation work to replace sewer pipes was being carried out approximately 30 meters from the Putra Heights explosion site just 2 days before the incident. However, Selangor Police Chief Datuk Hussein Omar Khan said further investigation will be conducted to determine whether the excavation work was the cause of the gas pipeline blaze. According to Hussein, work started in mid-March and was halted on March 30th. The developer, contractor, subcontractor, and workers involved have been identified and have been summoned for questioning.
Adakah aktiviti korek ni boleh menyebabkan letupan? Adalah satu perkara yang perlu disiasat lanjut untuk mengatasi perkara-perkara yang lain keterangan yang perlu dikumpulkan apabila kita menggali lubang itu dan temui keterangan-keterangan yang fizikal yang lain lah.
Investigators also identified 2 machines that were used, an excavator which was found buried in a crater left by the blast, and a backhoe which was removed before the explosion. Hussein said no human remains were found on the excavator based on preliminary investigations. He also said the police will be digging the site to a depth of 8 meters to remove the buried machinery after April 15th. Based on the initial findings, the police investigation is focused on determining whether the fire was caused by criminal sabotage or negligence. The preliminary report will take 2 weeks, with an additional 2 weeks required to complete the full report. The massive fire, which broke out last Tuesday morning, engulfed a 500-meter section of the gas pipeline, injuring more than 100 people with many burns and respiratory issues. It also destroyed or damaged hundreds of vehicles, as well as homes and properties within a 500-meter radius. In the meantime, the Selangor state government has offered more than 100 houses as temporary homes for victims of the pipeline fire. Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Amiruddin Syari said the temporary housing will be made available from next week in the form of smart rentals. Amiruddin added that some of the temporary homes will be located in Kota Warisan, Sepang, with additional locations to be revealed later.
Tak semuanya kita nak boleh janji di sini sebab kita pun tak mempunyai aset ataupun reserve rumah yang ada di sini. Tapi yang ada berdekatan di sini tu kita akan tawarkan dululah. Ada yang ditawarkan oleh MPHS ni di Sepang. Tak jauh daripada sini.
In another gesture of support, 25 victims were handed the keys to new cars for temporary use, along with 100 ringgit in fuel money. The donation is part of a larger commitment by a private company, which has pledged 50 vehicles in total for the victims. The remaining 25 cars will be distributed by Monday. So far, 112 victims have applied for temporary use of over 200 vehicles pledged by various organizations. Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) is likely to reduce the overnight policy rate (OPR) to 2.75% as early as July this year, in response to the risk of slower economic growth due to the new reciprocal tariffs set by the US. According to CIMB Securities, the central bank may consider easing the rate to support domestic demand if growth conditions deteriorate further. In a note on Friday, the firm said it has revised its OPR forecast to a single 25 basis point cut, bringing the policy rate to 2.75% in 2025, compared with its earlier expectation of a hold at 3%. It added that the tariffs set against the backdrop of the U.S.'s slowing domestic economy at 2.5% in the fourth quarter of 2024 present a dual challenge for Asian exporters, who are among the most exposed both in terms of tariff rates and their export reliance on the U.S. market. Additionally, substitution effects and demand erosion present first-order shocks to export-oriented companies, including Malaysia. Concurrently, CIMB Securities also lowered the country's gross domestic product (GDP) growth outlook for 2025 to 4% from the previous 5%. The exemption of Malaysia's semiconductors from the sweeping U.S. tariffs will help reduce any direct impact on chip production costs. Public Investment Bank highlighted that Malaysia holds a cost advantage over its regional peers in the manufacturing sector. In a note on Friday, the firm stated that it expects retaliatory measures from some countries, while other nations may potentially seek negotiations with the U.S. Meanwhile, China's retaliatory tariff on American goods could lead to a shift of more technology-related investments towards Malaysia due to its moderate tariff levels and strong diplomatic ties with both China and the U.S. While manufacturers may move away from high-tariff countries like China, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Thailand and Vietnam, Public Invest noted that Malaysia's favorable tariff rates could help prevent significant outflows. However, uncertainties remain regarding potential cost increases for non-semiconductor systems and components sourced from other regional countries. Earlier, China announced a slew of additional tariffs and restrictions against U.S. goods as a countermeasure to sweeping tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. The Finance Ministry said it will impose additional tariffs of 34% on all U.S. goods from April 10th. Beijing also announced controls of exports of medium and heavy rare earths, including samarium, gadolinium, terbium, dysprosium, lutetium, scandium, and thorium, to the U.S. effective April 4th. It also added 11 entities to the unreliable entity list, which allows Beijing to take punitive actions against foreign entities. Trump, in the meantime, said he was open to reducing his tariffs if other nations were able to offer something phenomenal, indicating that the White House was open to negotiations.
If somebody said that we're going to give you something that's so phenomenal, as long as they're giving us something that's good, the tariffs give us great power to negotiate.
The president on Thursday spoke after one of the worst days for stocks since the height of the coronavirus. About $2.5 trillion was erased from the S&P 500, with the gauge down almost 5%. Index futures for the U.S. and Europe dropped. The greenback extended its slide, while yields on the 10-year U.S. Treasury dipped below 4% again as the tariff moves continue to reverberate through markets. Meanwhile, pharmaceutical stocks in India on Friday fell as shares across Asia also declined. We're going for a short break. When we return, 4 arrested for possessing child sexual abuse material.
Sayang, gambar kita kat papan iklan. Nak lihat foto raya anda di papan iklan digital Big Tree? Anda hanya perlu hantarkan foto paling raya anda bersama insan tersayang ke bigtree.com.my. Jika foto anda terpilih, anda juga berpeluang memenangi duit raya berjumlah RM500 dan beramal kepada yang memerlukan. Penyertaan dibuka sekarang sehingga 13 April sahaja tahu. Jangan ketinggalan. Kongsikan kenangan, kongsikan rezeki.
kalau jaga dia 3 orang ni kan, Mak Jas selalulah kalau Mak Jas sembahyang, Mak Jas selalu doakan, ya Allah, perketatkanlah iman aku, sabarkanlah hati aku ni, ya Allah, kuatkan semangat, supaya kau biarlah aku sihat juga kan. Nak jaga yang 3 yang bukan senang. Mak Jas dia tak ada duit, tak apa. Bahasa barang makan ada kat rumah. Kalau kita boleh tahan, dia tak boleh.
Ya sayang. Mak, mana on the way ni? Atas Skyway. Baik solo je. Baru style lo. Raya, QR sini bro. Auto machine. Bunga api tak cukup letupan. Relax mak. Tahun ni bakal menantu join sekali. Satu kampung standby depan TV. Indahkan memori Syawal di TV3 Blockbuster dan stream juga melalui Tonton. Pasport? Check. Suit Spider-Man? Tak kot. Kono nak healing. Feeling dengan MJ. Sekali.
Some clothes on. Go for a ride.
Nick Fury dan Roger? No escape, bro.
Fire all the drones now!
Spider-Man Far From Home. Raya ke-7, 10 malam. Indahkan memori Syawal di TV3 Blockbuster dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
We're back with more local news. 4 Malaysians were among 435 individuals arrested following a joint crackdown on the possession and distribution of child sexual abuse material carried out across 6 countries. Deputy Inspector General of Police Datuk Seri Ayub Khan Maidin Piche said investigations revealed that the 4 men, aged between 26 and 49, had collectively possessed over 50,000 images and videos. The 4 suspects were apprehended during Operation Cyber Guardian, a coordinated effort by law enforcement agencies in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Japan and South Korea, which took place between February 24th and March 28th. Authorities detained the suspects during simultaneous raids on 6 residential units in Kajang, Ampang Jaya, Petaling Jaya and Shah Alam in Selangor, as well as Timur Laut in Pulau Pinang. Police managed to track down the suspects using internet protocol IP addresses provided by their Singaporean counterparts. Based on investigations, the suspects had obtained the materials through peer-to-peer interaction on social media platforms before storing it on their personal hard drives or devices.
Suspek dalam kes ini terdiri pada golongan pejabat awam, accountant, web designer dan protegi, ini tenaga pengajar pemasangan Wi-Fi, sebuah syarikat swasta.
4 investigation papers were opened under the Sexual Offences Against Children Act for accessing child sexual abuse material and the Penal Code for possessing obscene material. 2 of the suspects have been charged and have pleaded guilty in court. The police have crippled a cross-border drug trafficking syndicate following the seizure of 519 kilograms of shabu worth 16.6 million ringgit. The syndicate's modus operandi involved using a homestay to store the drugs before distributing them to the local and international markets. Bukit Aman Narcotics Crime Investigation Department NCID Acting Director Deputy Commissioner Madzani alias Muhammad Saluddin Sheikh Ali said the seizure was made during a series of raids conducted in the Klang Valley on March 27th. 2 men aged 21 and 32 were arrested during the operation in Subang Jaya at about 7:20 a.m. Checks on the car they were traveling in revealed 6 sacks containing 150 plastic packets of shabu. The suspects then led police to a nearby homestay at about 8:05 a.m. where another 12 sacks containing 300 packets of the drugs were found. At 1 p.m., authorities carried out a follow-up raid at a warehouse in Taman Bukit Permai Ampang, which led to the seizure of 2 more sacks containing 50 packets of shabu. It is believed that the syndicate has been active since September last year and that the drugs had been smuggled into the country through a route in Perlis. Both suspects were hired as transporters and were paid between 5,000 and 10,000 ringgit per delivery. The duo have been remanded for 11 days to assist investigations under the Dangerous Drugs Act. In Pulau Pinang, a 36-year-old laborer pleaded guilty in the Butterworth Sessions Court on Friday to kidnapping a 5-year-old child and to a separate charge of car theft. On the first charge, the accused, Jaswi Ismail, admitted to kidnapping the boy, who is autistic, from his 42-year-old father's care at the parking lot of Kampong Bangol Pokok Sena Mosque in Kepala Batas at about 8:20 p.m. on March 30th. Jaswi also pleaded guilty to stealing a car belonging to the victim's father at the same time and place. The charges filed under the Penal Code each carry a maximum sentence of 7 years imprisonment and a fine upon conviction. The court did not allow bail and fixed April 30th for sentencing. India's walk-off bill, potential death blow for Muslim property rights. The details when Nightline returns.
Dengar sini bro, jadi hero bukan setakat swing kiri, swing kanan.
Everybody good?
Do me a favor though. Can't you just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?
Pakai suit, lepas tu acakul. Aksi kena gempak, tapi fikir dulu sebelum bertindak. Jangan sampai terjebak.
Don't do anything stupid.
Spider-Man Homecoming, Raya ke-6 10 malam. Indahkan memori Syawal di TV3 Blockbuster dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
Kotor dan jijik, premis sembelih ayam langgar syarat.
Dia punya dokumen pemborong, untuk borong ayam kena ada lesen borong.
Pekerja asing ambil alih tugas penyembelih bertauliah.
Patutnya kena ada kat sini lah. Tengok pas cakap apa, pukul 1 semalam. Tapi ayam dah sebelah.
Saksikan 999 Selasa jam 9 malam di TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Ya sayang. Mak, mana Dwi ni atas skyway? Baik solo je. Baru style lo. Raya, QRC ni bro. Auto machine. Bunga api tak cukup letupan. Relax mak. Tahun ni bakal menantu join sekali. Satu kampung standby depan TV. Indahkan memori Syawal di TV3 Blockbuster dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
Apabila datang, ia boleh mengambil alih kesemuanya tubuh, minda dan hidup anda. Stres bukan sekadar tekanan perasaan tetapi boleh mengancam kesihatan secara keseluruhan. Kenalilah tanda-tanda stres sejak awal dan bincang mengenainya secara terbuka. Dapatkan sokongan moral dan emosi daripada orang di sekeliling anda serta bantuan profesional di saluran yang betul. Saksikan Hello Doktor Ahad 5:30 petang di TV3.
On to the foreign front. South Korea's Constitutional Court on Friday upheld ex-President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment over his disastrous martial law declaration, voting to strip him of office for violating the Constitution. The decision was unanimously by all 8 of the court's judges, who have been given additional security protection by police, with tensions high and pro-Yoon supporters rallying in the streets. As he read the verdict in court, Acting Chief Justice Moon Hyung-bae dismissed each of Yoon's reasonings for declaring martial law, saying the president had overstepped his authority by deploying troops onto the streets of the capital in December. Yoon's removal has now triggered fresh presidential elections, which must be held within 60 days. Meanwhile, Yoon's lawyer, Yoon Kap-kyun, slammed the court's impeachment ruling following the president's declaration of martial law that sparked the nation's worst political crisis in decades.
결과까지도 전혀 법리적으로 납득할 수 없는 결정이 이루어졌습니다. 완전히 정치적인 결정으로밖에 볼 수 없어서 너무 안타깝고 이것이 21세기 법치주의 대한민국에서 일어날 수 있는 일인가 참담한 심정입니다.
The court's decision to oust Yoon also sparked a range of reactions among residents, with some expressing joy while others said they could not accept the verdict.
저는 집회에서 이제 다 같이 생중계로 이제 선고되는 순간을 지켜봤는데 이제 기쁘고 감격스럽고 이제 주말도 반납하고 시위에 나온 시민들의 그리고 민주주의의 승리라고 생각을 했습니다. 이 윤석열 파면이 어떤 사회 대개혁의 첫걸음이 될 수 있을 거라고 생각을 하고요.
나는 도저히 불복합니다. 이거는 나라가 아니에요. 나는 나라가 망했다고 생각해요. 이게 나라냐고요. 진짜 피를 토하고 싶은 심정이에요.
In other news, India's parliament on Friday passed a controversial bill that seeks to change how properties worth billions of dollars and donated by Muslims over the centuries are governed. The upper house passed the Waqf Bill 2024 a day after the lower house cleared it amid strong opposition criticism. Muslim leaders and opposition parties said the bill is unconstitutional and infringes on the rights of India's Muslim minority community. The opposition alleged that it is another ploy by the governing party to dilute the rights of the minorities. However, the government claimed that the bill aims to make the management of Muslim properties more transparent. The bill would be sent to India's president for her assent before it becomes law. A waqf is a charitable or religious donation made by Muslims for the benefit of the community, with such properties cannot be sold or used for any other purpose. They are important to India's 200 million Muslims as they are used for mosques, madrasas, graveyards, and orphanages. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs on Friday said Israel has now restricted Palestinian access to roughly two-thirds of Gaza. This was either by declaring large areas as no-go zones or issuing forced displacement orders. According to the office, among the restricted areas is a large swath of southern Rafah, where Israel's military issued a new displacement order declaring it was returning to fight with great force. The restrictions also cover parts of Gaza City, where Israeli troops launched a new ground offensive to expand their security zone. Elsewhere, Israeli forces continued devastating aerial attacks, killing at least 30 people since dawn. This followed an intense day of bombardment on Thursday that left 112 dead, many of them women and children. Sports now. Tennis. The 2025 Charleston Open. Second-seeded Madison Keys was eliminated, while American compatriots Jessica Pegula and Emma Navarro both advanced to the quarter-finals. Top seed Pegula converted 4 of 8 break-point opportunities while giving up only 1 of the 5 she faced, while up against Australia's Ayla Tomljanovic to win 6-3, 6-2 in just under an hour and 15 minutes. Pegula will face American Danielle Collins in the quarters. Navarro, who grew up on the courts of Charleston, dropped the first set to yet another American, Ashlyn Kruger, but came back to win 4-6, 6-4, 6-2. She will next square off against Amanda Anisimova, also of the United States, in the last 8. Keys, however, faced a different fate. Ranked number 5 in the world, she lost in straight sets to Russia's Anna Kalinskaya, who needed an hour and 20 minutes to put away the American 6-2, 6-4. Kalinskaya will face the winner of American Sofia Keys or Daria Kasatkina, the Russian-born player who now plays for Australia. And that concludes Nightline this time around. Before we leave, let's take a look as the Lusail Sky Festival lit up Qatar's atmosphere with aerial shows and fireworks to celebrate Adil Fitri. With that, I'm Nurin Razmyn. Thank you for watching and stay safe.